Hello, friends, and welcome to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. Today we're going to cover pandemic garden essentials. Patchouli, aka xiang, aka Pogostemon auricularius. So this is patchouli. Now wait, you may be asking, isn't this hippie stuff? Do you really want to grow something that will have the garden smelling like a jam band concert? I mean, yeah, but it's also Southeast Asian sailor stuff and pirate lord stuff. Think Filipino warrior chief Lapu-Lapu, Islamic explorer Ibn Battuta, and most importantly, Zhang Shi. Who is Zhang Shi, aka Shi Xiugu, you may ask? Oh, my dear uncultured Philistine. She's only the greatest pirate to ever live. Zhang Shi was a Chinese prostitute turned pirate lord who terrorized the Chinese seas during the Qing dynasty in the early 19th century. She commanded over 300 ships manned by 20 to 40,000 pirates, including men, women, and even children. Unlike loser pirates who end up killed publicly, she died in her old age, surrounded by luxury and sexy man concubines. Whatever your life goals have been up to this point, scratch them off and write Pirate Queen on your vision board. Daniele Bolelli has a wonderful History on Fire podcast about her, episode 24, called The Pirate Queen. Don't miss it. So patchouli. It's a hardy perennial herb adapted to hot and humid climate. It likes warm, damp climates in fertile, well-draining soil in an area full to partial sun exposure. As an herb, it's conductive to container growth, or you can plant it directly into your garden. You can also plant it in your neighbor's garden and force them to cultivate it at gunpoint. I'm just brainstorming here. No bad ideas. As a tropical plant, it likes hot and moist conditions, so it's really going to enjoy growing outdoors in places like Texas and Florida with a hardiness zone of 10 or 11. The Chinese variety, or the general variety, I suppose, has triangular leaves, and it's grown all the way up into northern China, which has a much cooler and drier climate, especially toward autumn. But the climate's pretty similar to the American Midwest. So it gets fairly moist and hot in the summer. Even if your climate isn't exactly this, you can still grow it indoors. And it prefers a pH of around 7. It grows up to 1 to 1.2 meters high, which for you Americans is the height of 2 normal-sized dogs stacked lengthwise. The plant bears small, pale, pink-white flowers. It's harvested in late summer and laid out to sun-dry by day and covered with a cloth at night to protect it from dew. This process is repeated until it's finally completely dry. The really potent version of this is called xiang, and this is not indigenous to China. It was brought in centuries ago from the Philippines and Indonesia and Malaysia, where it actually originated. There are varieties which exist in India, and there some of the varieties aren't as potent. It's used more as a spice and has less of a strictly medicinal benefit. So it is used in Ayurvedic medicine. However, different varieties of this are of varying potency, and the most potent would be from Southeast Asia. It's thought to have spread through trade routes in the South Pacific. People would make a powder of this herb and use it to alter their microbial atmospheres, which made their bodies and clothing stink while on sea voyages. So the relationship between gas and the environment and your microbial biofilms, this relationship is called your aerobiome. And if your aerobiome has the stank, you're not making friends. It's also a sign of poor health. So they would use these antimicrobial herbs, particularly xiang, patchouli, in order to cleanse themselves and not get rotting. In the Song dynasty, around 960 to 1279, Southern Chinese started to use this more widely as an official medicine. So, not as a perfume, not as a folk medicine, but officially into proper prescriptions. And it found particular use in areas where it was hot and damp, and especially in late summer. In this kind of living sauna of the tropics, where humidity levels soar above 90%, the walls weep and ceilings drip as the microclimates of the home begin to have their own precipitation. In this climate, mold toxins and damp-loving pathogens are an unavoidable part of life. In these areas, people take the xiang leaves and steep it into a tea. They enjoy it, even though it has kind of a bitter and astringent flavor. It's still, you can get used to it as a tea, and especially as your body kind of wakes up to the fact that this is opening the appetite and making you digest better, you start to crave it a little bit. Those who wake up early for exercise, particularly after having cold smoothies or raw vegetables, may find themselves with unexplained body aches, headaches, and this is because of the cold humidity in the morning. If you're eating very cold foods, it can throw off your gut microbiome, which will in turn throw off your respiratory microbiome and your atmospheric cloud microbial biome. So this can cause uncomfortable throat with a bit of mucus. It throws off your immune system, which is going to cause generalized inflammation and achiness. According to Dr. Li Fei in Guangdong, using xiang at 10 grams, He at 15, and Baizhi at 5 grams can raise the yang qi to scatter cold. Used for a few days, it's helpful. And after this, using xiang leaves alone brewed into a tea can help for a few days, and he uses this for problems of late summer damp heat. He also explained that guang xiang is different because it's smaller, it's harder to grow, and it has fur on it, whereas the other varieties don't have the fur. The leaves are also rounder. The general xiang has triangular leaves. The guang xiang, which is from the Philippines, this has rounder leaves. The guang xiang is harder to grow, but it has a lot more power for its weight, and as a result, more bioactive compared to its saponin content. So all plants, even if they're helpful plants, all of them will have a degree of side effects or difficulty with digestion. So the nice thing about getting crazy high quality is that you get more of the good stuff and less of the side effects or hardships on the body. That's the benefit of going high quality. If someone's already in tremendously good health, using lower quality isn't a big deal. Their body's going to adjust pretty easily. But as people are in more compromised states of health or simply want to avoid having additional challenges in their life, then going high quality is better. So according to Dr. Li Fei, guang xiang is best raised in the foggy and warm areas near river deltas where the silt and pathogens gather. The greater the variety of diseases in the area, the young xiang will adapt accordingly, and this causes the herbs to become more powerful because their own immune system is activated, and with that, the volatile oils. Guang xiang fears cold, and it fears becoming waterlogged. So it's raised in rows that are kind of like these small hills, 1 foot by 3 foot high, with trenches of water moving along the sides. In these kind of tropical climates, you can pick it after about a month. The easiest way to use it is to just eat it as a salad. Salads tend to require more digestive power and are considered colder on the gut. So if you are going to eat a salad and you add xiang leaves to the mix, you can gently warm this and it won't be so cold. Local people in Guangzhou use it after eating bad seafood, and they'll mix it with ginger. So they'll make kind of a tea out of ginger and xiang for times when they've eaten bad food. If your gut microbiome is just getting really off, you can make a rice congee to warm the gut, especially if you've had too many cold or raw foods. So this congee is made of rice, corn, and xiang. So first of all, you cook the ginger and rice and corn for about 30 minutes. Then for the last 10 minutes, you add the xiang. The leaves are bitter and they tend to spread out and look ugly if you cook them too long. They get sort of stringy. So it's common to put them into a small cloth before adding them to the congee to keep them from disturbing the texture. If you're using dried xiang, then 10 grams is enough. If you're using fresh, presumably you don't need to use as much. The most common application of xiang in Chinese society is a formula called xiang zhengqi, and this is used for digestion and colds in China and has some interesting off-label uses. So xiang zhengqi, when I'm in China, I always have it in my bag. Why? Because if I'm drinking too much, people are saying, hey, welcome back, toast to your health. Yeah, well, toast to my health isn't so good for my health, so I take xiang zhengqi to counter the side effects of alcohol, which is a lot of damp heat on the microbiomes. And there's some additional effects. So women are using it for their hangnails, and apparently the antibacterial and antifungal effects really make nails look great. Especially for toenail fungus, it seems to be incredible. It's used in a baby's bathtub. So just a little bit of the xiang zhengqi added to the bath water is used to clear away rashes, particularly heat rashes and rashes that babies have in summertime. It's also used topically for athlete's foot, which Chinese call Hong Kong foot. This is also one of the most used formulas for COVID-19 in China because the symptoms tended to present as late summer colds in terms of nausea and this low-grade fever. These are all classic signs of damp pathogens in Chinese society. So they went with the xiang zhengqi and reported that it helped keep symptoms mild or knock them out, especially early stages. For nausea and car sickness, people will use a drop or two of this on their belly buttons. What the hell, right? Well, the belly button has its own distinct microbiome, which becomes more diverse as a person gets older. So there may be something to the microbiome of the belly button and the aerobiome which surrounds us. That relationship between gas and microbes, which is all throughout us and surrounds us as well. Dr. Zhang Dihua of Beijing TCM Hospital said that xiang zhengqi is made out of guang xiang essential oil, 紫薯叶 essential oil, 白芷、厚朴、大腹皮、生姜、生板夏、陈皮、白术、茯苓, and 甘草. This removes damp and harmonizes the middle. And by middle, she means the digestive organs, the spleen and stomach. It's used for cold and flu, especially that which affects digestion, such as flu, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, dizziness, and nausea. It sends the stomach fire down while uplifting the spleen. It's also good for bad breath due to improper diet and dysbiosis within the gastrointestinal and oral microbiomes. It's useful for fatigue, skin disorders, headaches, and body aches, which are associated with the damp diagnosis. It should not be combined with formulas which use fuzi or wutou. It should not be combined with the cephalosporin class of antibiotics. The alcohol extract versions have 40% alcohol, and overdose can cause a disulfiram-like drug reaction. What does that mean? That means that one time you were on vacation and there was that special on Long Island iced teas, and after that you noticed the gin went down smoother than water. Remember that time when you narrowly avoided the police? Then after, when you thought you were going to die, you were like, never again, never again. Oh my God, if you let me not die right now, I'll never do this again. Yeah, remember that? God told me about that incident, okay? That's what they mean. Xiang, picked fresh, is excellent to cook with, and it helps to keep mold and fungi away in late summer. On warm nights in Sichuan, you can smell it On street corners, people have xiang fish cooking outside barbecue style. The following is a recipe described by master chef Huang Xianhua. So first of all, it says you're going to pick some Chuan xiang. So xiang that's grown in Sichuan. Obviously, he's in Sichuan, so that's what he's picking. You can pick whatever you have nearby. It's okay. I'll give you a pass. Freshly picked, he says the flavor is thicker. In Chinese, there's a concept of thick and thin flavors. I have no idea how to translate that into English, but maybe some culinary folks do. If you have an idea of what this means in Western culinary lingo, let me know. He said you start with 3 liang of fish, which is 5.5 pounds. Remove the tail fin. Score the fish about a third of the way through, 3 to 4 times on both sides. It's about an inch apart. It's just scoring the fish, let the flavor get in. Add the fish to a plate, adding sliced ginger and 4 spring onions and salt. How much salt? How much ginger? It's a Chinese recipe. You just gotta trust yourself on this one. He then adds some rice which has been soaking in vinegar, pickled chili pepper, but first he removes the seeds, pickled ginger combined with raw ginger, as well as douban, which is a fermented chili sauce. Then there's garlic and pickled green leaf, qiang. What kind of green leaves? This is pickled cabbage or lettuce, kind of sauerkraut essentially. So all of this is going to be finely chopped. Then you take the fish, you toss it in a wok with hot vegetable oil, stir it around with chopsticks, let it cook. Then you take it out, put it on a straining device, let the oil strain out, and let it cool. So now you have a wok with oil mixed with fish oil. This treasure is what you will add the douban along with the ginger, garlic, and chili peppers. Stir this around with a ladle, then add a bit of the clear water to lift up the flavors. So oil and water don't mix, that's true, but you're going to use that to lift up the flavors, those volatile oils which are there. You're going to use that to lift it up. Then you add the fried fish back into the wok, ladle the juices on top. Add a small dash of sugar and vinegar and cover the wok with a lid. Then, after a little bit, you remove the fish a second time. Add vinegar again to the wok, along with fragrant spices such as the spring onion and xiang. This will make a thicker sauce, and you can put on the final fish. So you're letting all this kind of boil down. You're adding spices to it over time. This is really soaking in. The nice thing about this is that it won't be overly spicy because the seeds have already been taken out from the chili peppers. So it's going to be light and flavorful. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to get yourself on the interwebs and start to grow patchouli, xiang. Get your neighbors to grow it as well, because after the Rona has its major waves of infection come and go, I've got some bad news for you. The Himalayan glaciers are melting, and they are releasing tropical diseases, which the world hasn't seen for 20 to 30,000 years. They are rushing down through the Tibetan Plateau to India and China, where they go global. What do these have in common? They are tropical diseases which love damp weather. They love fat people. Know any fat people? You probably do. Because this is the modern era, most Americans are overweight, if not obese. And this is kind of a global thing. So these diseases really like us, and they're going to be making rounds. So you're going to want herbs on hand which combat them. With this in mind, we've come out with this supreme quality xiang zhengqi. We used the bansha chu instead of the cheaper fa bansha, which is commonly used. This is the more traditional way to process it, and it is more effective for these disease types. You can get this at botanicalbiohacking.com, and also please start growing this at home. Regular quality xiang zhengqi is also good. Keep that around for milder cases. You're going to be out of this before you know it. It's very useful. It's really a godsend herbal formula. You're going to want to have access to it, and you're going to want to know how to grow it for now to the foreseeable future. And we want to diversify the supply chains so that if, God forbid, trade is cut down, we need to be able to use this stuff because we can't be at the mercy of the Western, especially the American medical systems. We cannot be at the mercy of drug companies. We need to grow herbs, buy herbs, and use herbs so that you can be prepared for the unknown and flourish with inner tranquility, even in the midst of chaos. If you'd like to know more about the microbiomes of the body, how they relate to Chinese medicine, and in particular, the aerobiomes of the body, that is the relationship between gases and microbiota, check out our Aerobiome Mastery program. You'll find that at botanicalbiohacking.com. Thank you so much for listening to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. I am your hobbit of a host, Dr. Andrew Miles.